It may have been spoiled something fierce, but what we did see was pretty spicy indeed, despite spice not really working with cereal, typically. That's right everyone, Dragon Ball Super the Manga Chapter 73 is here, and from what we can tell, this fight is either going to be seen as something completely ridiculous, or the biggest twist and turn section that Dragon Ball Super has seen outside of the final boss fight. I'm not talking better than the final Moro fight though, but it's definitely enough to catch your interest, I would probably say. By the way, if you wish to catch our more in-depth discussion of this chapter, you can listen to our podcast Up on the Lookout via the link in the description, or up top of course, by subscribing so that you will get it once it's ready and out. Thank you. Chapter 73, Granolah vs Goku. Hey, these chapter names may not be as explosive as the anime episodes are, but they are at least not clowning you around, despite one of the names here being described sometimes as a clown. Where we last left off, Granolah and Goku were sizing each other up when it comes to powers, with Vegeta acting as mostly a detective for this particular chapter. But we're also getting some good action as well, and most importantly, not once being targeted by Granolah. Might this be explored in chapter 73 or 74? Perhaps. But for now, Goku gets the first contact with the Cerulean, and despite the idea that Ultra Instinct can now be used as an enhancement rather than a full-blown transformation alone, you can peep our discussion up top for more about that, the Hunter is still able to get the upper hand on our Saiyan, but only when Goku lets his guard down, which actually happens a lot in Super, don't you think? A little too often if you ask me. Could this battle be something that will be a major series highlight, or is it just going to be a chunk of bull that we're going to be moaning about for months to come? I don't know. We shall find out more when the chapter starts itself right now. We start off this month's chapter with something that will carry on throughout this chapter, and I can say, there's going to be plenty of action. Already, in the very first few pages of this chapter, there are tons of fast-flowing movement, as we see Goku and Granolah flitting about at quite strong powers and speeds, with Goku now finally able to be giving the bounty hunter at least a little bit of a surprise every now and again. Then the action quickly moves itself to a place that I am really excited for, and I'm glad that it's actually here. The innards of the forests of planet Cereal. We saw these in the spoilers and leaks that came out prior to this release, and I am very, very pleased that this turned out to be the case. At last, folks, we're not fighting once more in the plains or in the middle of a wasteland. This is huge! Dragon Ball getting out of its comfort zone. It so rarely does it. And not only are our heroes just happening to be in a different location, you see the likes of Granolah using the full potential of his home turf by interacting with it, not just be there with the trees. He's looping his scarf around a tree and decking Goku in the schnoz. And at the same time, taking out the very trees of his homeworld. Oh, well, I guess Granolah's not an environmentalist, eh? This power is certainly something you could describe to be tree-ifying. Eh? Huh? Hey, all I'm trying to say is I'm just happy that Dragon Ball's branching out is all. So, despite Granolah not exactly going down like Goku would want, he is at the very least giving this guy a very big challenge. Much more so than before, or so it would seem. But once again, the trees are very much aiding the Cerulean in his pursuit to stop the Saiyans. If you've seen The Happening by M. Night Shyamalan, you'll very much understand that you will want to have the trees and plants on your side. Seriously. After felling more trees, Goku has had enough and is now upping the ante even more by using Ultra Instinct with Super Saiyan Blue, something that he hasn't had to resort to before now, and once he does, he is now slowly starting to get some sort of intrigue from Granolah. You know, getting interested in how it works, the implementation of this evasion technique, aka Granolah thinks Goku is just using this to run away from him. Very cocky little beggar you are. Once more, we have some acrobatics, and it all culminates with what you could describe to be an instant Kamehameha at point-blank range, with Granolah getting it straight in the middle. That's a good shot. After all that battle is going to look very good once it's animated, or if it's animated. Whilst this goes on, Detective Vegeta is sensing and hearing this from miles away. But we gotta get back to the battle, of course, because Detective Vegeta's boring at this moment, but both parties are down, and Goku is no longer in blue. But apparently, so long as Granolah's eye is active, Goku will always be detectable because of blood vessels and all that chicanery. Where is that attack that gets Vegeta in the eye when you need it? Seriously, just get Granolah in the eye! But Granolah's getting cocky though, and finally, he is at least showing some kind of swagger. But he's still not exactly proving to be a likable guy. Nor do I think Goku likes it when Granolah just so happens to raise Ki up from under the ground almost like it were hot lava and catch Goku off guard, and then it ending up as a really cool epic mushroom cloud. It was a surprise, and Goku is better handling it than with Frieza. You know, lava coming up and where his butt was flaming. So yeah, whilst the Shigerians are busy panicking, their homeworld being destroyed by Granolah, Goku instant transmits to Vegeta's side, mentioning that this kind of technique is something he's seen before, something that Moro would do. It's a good point actually, hang on a minute. Where did Granolah learn that? Is he just pulling these attacks out of the ether? Anyway, questions for later. Vegeta lays out his findings of his detective work, now's the right time, Detective Jeets, and reveals that Granolah and this world are the remains of a race of beings that Frieza tasked the Saiyans to wipe out, with Goku saying that that's why they don't see eye to eye. Don't get mad with me, I didn't make that pun, the manga did. Anyway, it's quite clear that the prince has rumbled the heaters as well, and that there is no point in convincing the bounty hunter either to try and stop. At least Vegeta gets that Granolah is quite the stubborn little jerk. But Goku has no choice but to go all out, to which the prince is kind of disappointed that he's going to have to resort to that technique right now. Either Vegeta has something up his sleeve that Goku knows nothing about, or it's just Jeets being Jeets. But my wager is on the former. Sure enough, Goku arrives back at the battle in Mastered Ultra Instinct and shows his hand by saying he doesn't have long left to use this. Saying this to his enemy. And also, after all this time training, he hasn't improved his stamina much in that form at all. It's a little convenient for some peril here, wouldn't you say? Anyway, we resume our showcase of really impressive panels from Toyotaro, and this time Goku is handing it to Granolah, at least showing that he wasn't making up this strength. And it feels so good that when Goku's trying to calm Granolah down and he's refusing by basically going, "Well, I want all Saiyans to die!" He then shuts him up by basically starting to lay the smackdown by grabbing him and taking at least a little more seriously the fight, with further demonstrations of super speed and then sadness at having to settle it for real. Took you long enough, Goku, to take this seriously. Goku then multi-punches Granolah into a mountainside, but then Detective Vegeta is on the case. I think we can warrant some fan art, wouldn't you say? Send me some fan art via my Twitter at MasakoX with the hashtag SherlockVegeta, and I'll share it on the next review at the end. So the detective senses that the hunter's power hasn't decreased throughout this pummeling, and that's weird, sensing more energy coming from a different location away from this Granolah. Indeed, Granolah hasn't lost this battle per se. He just underestimated Goku, and this is where the real bonkers thing comes into view. Granolah was in his ship the whole time, miles away, and then used a clone of himself to fight Goku, and it was a really, really difficult fight. Which reminds me of the Yardratian technique, actually, of being able to make perfect clones, or at least near perfect ones. But where did he learn that? But anyway, before Vegeta can finish shouting dramatically, the real Granolah has made his way to Goku, and basically one-shots him, in base form, mind you. Why did he send a clone in? Well, he wasn't going to be initially taking this battle seriously, saving his power for Frieza, but he will have to use it more because Vegeta is now in the game, throwing off his detective hat. And I think we will have some hope here, folks, because I've not seen the Vegeta thumbs up pose from him in here, so that's a good thing, as Vegeta vows to kill Granolah for all that he's done, and for being a jerk. And that's where the chapter ends. All in all, I'm not really sure what to think of this chapter. I mean, don't get me wrong. Visually speaking, it's certainly something very impressive, and is a very clear sign that Toyotaro is improving with his composition and ideas for spectacular fighting and scenery, not resorting to key attacks too often, which in Dragon Ball Super times, it's a pretty big plus, and not to mention the locale. Instead of getting another wasteland, or even the Arctic, we're getting a forested wood, something that we've only seen back in movie 5 of DBZ. This new place for a battle already means we are seeing something fresh, and like Geekdom has said on many occasions on the lead up to this chapter, once this gets animated, this is going to look very good to the point of being a major standout of the series. And of course, that is if it ever gets made. So where does the rub lay with me? Well, it's to do with Granolah actually. Where did he get these techniques? How did he get them? No, outside of the dragon. To me, this feels very suspicious and a little bit confusing. However, I have one potential idea, a hot take, that might be able to sort of justify it. If time is linear, then Torombo, the cerulean dragon, looked into Granolah's future and saw what his future self would have done and what he would have learnt and how he would have improved in the 147 years of life that the bounty hunter could have had he not asked for the wish to be the strongest in the universe, have that contract, and only have 3 years left to live. You know, no pressure then. With that, the dragon then bestowed all of that on Granolah right now. All 147 years of it, with no context whatsoever. But then again, at this point, I don't reckon that Granolah cares where he got these powers, or who he got them from. Only that he has them right now, to destroy the Saiyans and Frieza. It's a little bit sad and a little bit impulsive actually, and sort of actually justifies the argument that Granolah is actually slowly turning into a one-dimensional character. And that kind of makes me a bit sad. But this is my best explanation as to why there are quite a few bum pulls near the end of this chapter in regards to Granolah knowing exactly, or at least mostly, how this mastered Ultra Instinct technique of Goku's works. Yes, I know, some of you may be just saying, haha, Masako, I told you so! Granolah isn't all that exciting after all, nor is he really interesting as a guy. Okay, he is slowly turning into a bloke who just wants to fight, and that's it. But then again, if you got what you wanted and you're actually really close to getting what you want, how else are you going to interact? I don't know. I understand also why you might not really like his personality, as he is quite cantankerous and belligerent. I hear you. I'm really not a fan of him as a person anymore, but I still want to see where he goes with this. Does he lose to Vegeta? Does he get more desperate? And does he become more of a loose cannon? And we, like Moro, see a very strong person slowly go mad with power and then descend into some kind of haze and hysteria of insanity. I imagine if you're an MHA fan, you might be able to understand as of recent events. Yeah, it could happen. A tragic loss of a potentially talented bounty hunter. Well, if we see more of this chicanery, we might start to care less with each chapter, that is a given. But, to be fair, this chapter does not bore you. It's certainly enough to keep you thinking, and you will not be forgetting it in a hurry, so I guess that's a plus. So for Vegeta's situation, I feel that he has something up his sleeve for this upcoming fight. What is it exactly? I don't know. But I don't think it's his usual bluster and his usual dialogue of, "Don't underestimate the Saiyans, fool!" That's not part of his repertoire, I reckon. Or at least I hope. Is there something that Beerus might have taught him during his training that he feels like he can use against Granolah and be successful with? Perhaps we could see him trick the bounty hunter thanks to his rush to getting stronger and Vegeta's immense experience. And I can also imagine Vegeta pulling a line like, "Huh, you're far too desperate. You fail to see the bigger picture around you. And that's why I will crush you." I'm not too worried about Vegeta. He's willing to throw himself into the fray, despite the fact he saw Goku nearly lose to a clone of Granolah, and then actually lose when the real deal fought, getting one-shotted. I think Vegeta has a good chance of doing well, or maybe at least holding out enough before something else gets in the way of the battle. Might we see the Heaters jump in to try and stop Granolah? What did you folks think of the chapter itself? Did you appreciate the straightforward action of this chapter for the majority? Or were there too many convolutions and confused moments that really pulled you out of the immersion? You couldn't really enjoy it enough? Do let me know in the comments, and I shall see you next month for the Chapter 74 review. But until then, folks, I'll catch you later.